Traore's shock to the world is not a single headline. It is a story unfolding across air bases, workshops, mines, and ministries. Tonight, we go inside Burkina Faso's high-stakes push to make and acquire military gear on a scale that supporters call historic and critics call dangerous. You will hear what is truly being built inside the country, what is being imported from new partners, where the money comes from, and why the ripple effects stretch from the Sahel to Washington. By the end, you will have the facts you need to judge the claim that military equipment worth billions is now made in Burkina Faso, and you will see how much is promise, how much is procurement, and how much is pressure. Imagine the runway south of Ouagadougou. Wide skies. A long strip of tarmac cut from the savannah. On a recent delivery day, cameras pan to the silhouette of twin-engine combat drones taxiing past ground crews. Those aircraft did not come from Paris. They were delivered by a Turkish manufacturer under a new defense relationship that Burkina Faso has embraced since its foreign policy pivot. The symbols are clear. The old security formula has been replaced by a new one, accelerated by Captain Ibrahim Traore's rise to power and his pledge to restore sovereignty, rebuild capacity, and push out what he calls dependency. But slogans do not win battles, and headlines do not equip soldiers. What does it really mean to say that military gear worth billions is now made in Burkina Faso? Let's separate three things that often get mixed together: domestic manufacturing and conversion inside the country, high-value imports from new suppliers, and the financing streams that make all of this possible. Start with what is tangible inside Burkina Faso. In recent months, a small but energetic manufacturing scene has emerged around vehicle protection and light armored conversions. Local engineers and fabricators have been taking pickup truck platforms and turning them into light armored vehicles. One company in particular has attracted attention for presenting an indigenous prototype at a defense gathering in Ouagadougou. The concept is straightforward. You begin with a chassis that can handle weight and off-road stress. You fabricate an armored hull with ballistic plates. You integrate firing ports, a roof hatch, and a protected engine bay. You balance the vehicle's weight against mobility and heat. You run tests and refine. At this stage, this is not a mass production line. It is a seed, a mix of garage ingenuity, metallurgical know-how, and battlefield feedback. It shows a hunger to build at home, to repair at home, and to adapt at home. In parallel, policy documents inside Burkina Faso have floated the idea of reviving or reclaiming legacy armaments companies that once existed on paper. That kind of move would be bureaucratic, not cinematic, but it matters. If the state takes back control of an old cartridge or small arms enterprise, it could eventually standardize calibers, centralize procurement, and set quality baselines. None of that happens overnight. It requires tooling, metallurgy standards, stable electricity, and long-term contracts. Still, it signals intent. The government wants to move beyond patchwork purchases toward an industrial policy, even if that policy is only at the starting line. Now look skyward, because the nation's most dramatic capability jump has come through drones. Burkina Faso has inducted advanced Turkish-made unmanned combat aerial vehicles into service, including heavy platforms capable of carrying precision-guided munitions. Their arrival coincided with the unveiling of a dedicated drone base near the capital, as well as training programs to grow a domestic cadre of operators and maintainers. This is not homegrown manufacturing. It is imported capacity, integrated locally. But the impact is real. Drones compress the time between detecting a hostile convoy and striking it. They extend surveillance over supply routes. They can loiter over a suspected ambush point and wait for confirmation before engaging. Yet there is a hard truth. Drone power raises legal and moral stakes. Human rights organizations have documented incidents in which drone strikes allegedly hit civilians in Burkina Faso and across the region. They argue that some operations may have violated the laws of war. The government typically says the targets were militants. The debate is not academic. It is about how a state fights a brutal insurgency without losing the very legitimacy it seeks to protect. If you are watching in the United States, this will sound familiar. Precision does not remove the fog of war. It shifts where accountability must sit, in the chain of command, the rules of engagement, the quality of target vetting, and the willingness to investigate when things go wrong. On the ground, the Army has also expanded its fleet of armored vehicles and mobile firepower, and here again the emphasis has shifted away from traditional Western suppliers. Over the last year, Burkina Faso has taken delivery of a wave of Chinese-made platforms, armored personnel carriers, fire support vehicles, self-propelled gun mortars, and multiple rocket launch systems. These are not theoretical. They have been filmed, catalogued, and fielded. For a military fighting across rough terrain against mobile insurgent groups, these systems offer protected mobility, quick reaction in direct fire, and the ability to interdict massed assaults. The trade-off is that they require logistics and maintenance pipelines that are still being built. Ammunition supply must be reliable. Spare parts must flow. Crew training must keep pace with deliveries. This procurement drive intersects with a political realignment. Alongside Mali and Niger, Burkina Faso has moved into a new regional alliance that envisions tighter defense cooperation, shared training, and potentially a confederation that rewrites the map of West African security. The country has stepped away from the orbit of its former security patrons and toward partners that offer different terms, faster delivery, fewer conditions, and flexible financing. That flexibility is not free. It binds Burkina Faso to the industrial ecosystems of Ankara and Beijing and deepens relationships with Moscow in other domains. Strategically, the government calculates that diversified partners mean more autonomy. Operationally, it means learning new supply chains and absorbing new doctrine. If you take a step back, the phrase worth billions begins to make sense, but not in the way viral posts imply. The eye-catching figures live in two places: the value of imported platforms and munitions now entering service, and the domestic money the state is mobilizing to pay for a long war. On the import side, the rough math adds up quickly. Heavy drones with ground stations and munitions suites are premium assets. Armored vehicle fleets with gun mortars and rocket systems drive up procurement lines and sustainment costs. On the domestic side, the government has leaned on extraordinary funding measures, including a patriotic support fund that collects contributions and taxes to finance security forces and auxiliaries. Alongside that, a revised mining code and a more assertive state sharing gold projects have redirected a larger slice of extractive revenue toward national priorities, including the fight against insurgents. The sum of those flows reaches into the billions when you look across multiple years and across defense, humanitarian, and reconstruction demands. But it is crucial to say this clearly: the largest single chunk of that billions figure is not value created by factories inside Burkina Faso. It is the cost of buying warfighting capacity abroad and sustaining it at home, enabled by fiscal measures that tap gold revenues and public contributions. So where does that leave the claim that Burkina Faso is now making military gear worth billions? Here is the most honest answer based on open sources. There is a nascent domestic effort around vehicle armoring and conversions. There are signals that the state wants to revive ammunition-related industry. There are training centers, new bases, and growing technical cadres for drones. These are building blocks. They are not yet an integrated national defense industrial base turning out high-end systems at scale. The big-ticket items that define battlefield power in Burkina Faso today were designed and manufactured abroad. Calling this a made-in-Burkina revolution overshoots reality. Calling it the first steps toward one is fair. None of this unfolds in a vacuum. The insurgency remains lethal. Civilian displacement is massive, and credible reports document atrocities by armed groups and allegations of grave abuses by state forces and auxiliaries. For the government, the dilemma is brutal. It must push for territorial control, protect communities living under blockade, and restore roads and markets, all while avoiding actions that alienate the very people it seeks to defend. For ordinary Burkinabe, the question is simpler and heavier. Can they go to school, work their fields, and travel between towns without fear? Military hardware matters only insofar as it moves the needle in the right direction. What happens next depends on 4 tests. The first is industrial patience. Can Burkina Faso turn workshop ingenuity into durable production with standards, testing, and supply chains that survive leadership changes and budget shocks? The second is professionalization. Can the armed forces and auxiliaries integrate new technology without cutting corners on law of war training, target development, and civilian protection? The third is financing discipline. Can the state sustain the cost of imported systems, spare parts, and munitions without starving education, health, and local governance? The fourth is diplomacy. Can the regional alliance deliver practical gains in intelligence sharing, border operations, and joint training, rather than slogans? If you are watching from the United States, you may be asking how this affects you. It does. American policy debates about counterterrorism, great power competition, and human rights now intersect sharply in the Sahel. Washington will have to decide how to engage a partner that has pivoted away from Western security frameworks, is procuring from Turkey and China, and faces serious allegations of abuses even as it fights a ruthless insurgency. Some will argue for strict distance. Others will argue for pragmatic working channels focused on civilian protection, humanitarian corridors, and regional stability. Either way, the stakes are not abstract. They include migration flows, extremist networks, and the credibility of international norms in a region where rules are often broken. Let's return to the core claim and put it in plain terms. Supporters of the government say that for the first time in a generation, Burkina Faso is building military capability with speed and focus, paying for it with national resources, and laying the foundations of an industry that will keep money and skills inside the country. Critics say the country is buying more than it is building, normalizing emergency finance, and risking a cycle in which imported firepower grows while institutions shrink. Both sides are partly right. The clearest facts point to a hybrid reality. There is genuine momentum around local fabrication and maintenance. There is significant reliance on foreign-made drones, armored vehicles, and rocket systems. There is a political will to change the mining and fiscal rules of the game. There is a battlefield that punishes mistakes, including mistakes that cost civilian lives. Before we close, here are the questions I want to put to you, the audience, because this story is not only about what is possible. It is about what is wise. If a country seeds a small defense industry with conversions and repairs, what is the smartest next step? Ammunition and spare parts, or electronics and sensors? Do imported drones change the course of an insurgency, or do they simply change the map temporarily unless ground security and governance improve? What is the right way to audit a patriotic war fund in the middle of a war so that soldiers get what they need and citizens know where their money went? If an alliance of neighboring states promises joint defense, what practical benchmarks would convince you it is working beyond press releases? And when civilian protection and rapid strikes collide, which mechanisms persuade you that a government is taking accountability seriously? Independent investigations, public reporting of strike criteria, reparations to victims, or something else? Tell me what you think, because the answers to those questions decide whether this moment becomes a lasting national capability or a costly detour. If you found this deep dive valuable, stay with AfriPol Lens. Subscribe to the channel so you do not miss our upcoming investigations into how regional alliances are reshaping procurement, how mining revenue is being tracked into security spending, and how communities on the front line experience these policies. Like this video if it helped you see past the slogans. Share it with a friend who follows African geopolitics but wants facts before opinions. And drop your take in the comments. Did we get the balance right between hype and reality? What did we miss? Which angle should we investigate next? from maintenance bottlenecks to evidence standards in drone warfare. Your feedback shapes our next report. For those who ask whether this program glorifies war, the answer is no. The mission here is clarity. It is to examine claims, verify sources, and ask hard questions about strategy, law, and consequences. That is how journalism serves the public, especially when the stories are loud and the facts are complicated. Thank you for watching AfriPol Lens. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and stay safe wherever you are.